You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Armchair Cricket Podcast, a podcast focusing on Test cricket by armchair critics of the game. I'm recording this episode on the day before the fourth Ashes Test begins, and on the day on which New Zealand played Sri Lanka in the second T20 International. I'm your host Ajit. My co-host Giri is away, and I'll be your host for today. So it has been a very momentous week if you're a Test cricket fan. We had left the previous episode with the first day of play in the first test between India and West Indies, the third Ashes test, as well as the second test between New Zealand and Sri Lanka being played out. So all of these three tests ended. Also, the second test between West Indies and India was also completed in the duration between the episodes. So let's start by taking a look quickly at the Sri Lanka versus New Zealand second test. So it was a very thrilling test simply because New Zealand was able to snatch a victory in spite of only about 3.5 days of play being possible. If you were to look at it, Sri Lanka batted first and they had scored 244 thanks to 109 by Dhananjaya De Silva and a 65 by skipper Karunaratne. New Zealand batted through, I think, 3 days where they had to bat on different times of the day. But they got to 431 for 6 declared in 115 overs thanks to 154 by Tom Latham and 105 by PJ Watling, the man Friday. Colin de Grandhomme also made a very useful 83. This meant Sri Lanka were about 184 runs behind and they had to, bat out the rest of the day, the last day of the test. But they weren't able to do that, and thanks to all the bowlers, the New Zealand bowlers sharing the wickets among them, so Trent Boult taking 2, Saudi taking 2, Ajaz Patel taking 2 and Somerville taking 2. Colin de Grandhomme as well chipping with 1 wicket. Only Niroshan Dickwella had a very uncharacteristic 51, which he took nearly 3.5 hours to make. And he was the lone, let's say, fighting hand. Another thing that sort of hamstrung Sri Lanka was that Karunaratne, the skipper, who's also, let's say, the mainstay of the top order, was injured and he could not come to bat any sooner than the fall of the 6th wicket. As a result, he could only make 21. He took 70 balls over it in nearly an hour and a half's time and kept Dickwella company, but that was not going to be enough because there was enough time that New Zealand were able to bowl 70 overs and in the dying light they were able to take the victory. Therefore, they were able to draw the series 1-1. So it's a very important result as far as New Zealand were concerned because they not only tied the series 1-0 but take the share of the points as well that are on offer for the series. Tom Latham finished the player of the match for his very wonderful 154 in the first innings, but PJ Watling, as I earlier called him the man Friday of New Zealand team, was declared the man of the series for his very good contributions in both the matches. So moving on, if you were to quickly take a look, let's take a look now at the third Ashes test, the very, very exciting Ashes test. Being so many days ago, I'm sure all our listeners must have heard multiple opinions. So I'll not go too deep into it. England having bowled Australia for 179, they must have felt very confident. Nobody expected that England would be bowled out for 67. But after having done that, and they were able to reduce Australia to 246 all out in the third innings of the game. Labuschagne scored 80, and then he had some useful support all around the top order. Khwaja making 23, Head making 25, Wade making 33, and then Pattinson making 20. That gave, England a very tough target, 359. And they had 2 days and a bit to survive. So a result was more or less certain in this test. Well, they did not start off brightly. Burns and Roy both had single-figure scores. But Root and Denley fought off on the third evening, but both scoring 50s. And Denley very unlucky to be dismissed on the third evening. And Root carried on into the fourth morning, but was dismissed early on the fourth morning. And then Stokes and Bairstow took England to lunch. So Bairstow made 36 and was dismissed immediately after lunch. But then came the turning point where Ben Stokes was batting very doggedly. Unfortunately, sold his good friend Butler down the river. And then Vokes was quickly dismissed. Archer came in and swung a few lusty blows to the tune of 15 runs. But Broad couldn't contribute much and was out for a duck of his very second ball. That meant the 9th wicket of England fell at 9 for 286 and the victory, 76 runs away. So it is not going to be a very easy task. But then They had the indomitable Ben Stokes at crease, and Jack Leach, who was no mug with the bat, as he has shown earlier in the season with the 92 against Ireland. So then what unfolded was a fantastic passage of Test cricket, the sort that, one would be very lucky to even get to see once a year. But we are so lucky that we got to see it twice a year, because if we remember right, earlier in the year, Kusal Pereira did the same thing to South Africa in the company of Vishwa Fernando. And in similar circumstances, but somehow in a much more pressure situation, simply because this is Ashes and also in front of his home crowd. And Ben Stokes being Ben Stokes, with all the, colourful past that he has, he was able to pull out the bunny out of the bag, as they say. And in spite of really good bowling, I think Nathan Lyon bowled really well. Pattinson was probing, and Hazelwood and Cummins were also very unlucky. He was able to play a wonderful array of strokes. So we remember that reverse swept 6 behind point of Nathan Lyon, almost like Kevin Peterson when he was doing the same thing to Muralidharan, right? All of these fantastic shots unfolded, and what showed through was the control that Stokes was able to take and basically manipulate the field as he wished and hit boundaries at will. And basically the last, let's say the 78 runs, was scored in a matter of just 10 overs. That meant he always was in control. And Jack Leach also has to be given a bit of credit here. He took 17 balls to score his one solitary run, and that too when 2 runs left to win. His solitary run tied the score, so England couldn't lose the match. There were 2 or 3 very tough points very close to the end of the game when, with I think 7 to 8 runs required, there was a review called on Leach's LBW call, which may have cost Australia the game. The other point being, Joel Wilson did not give a tough LBW call of Nathan Lyon when Ben Stokes was batting with very few runs required. And of course, with just 2 runs required, the run out that was missed by Nathan Lyon when Jack Leach was more than half the way down the crease, and he was sent back by Ben Stokes. These all points stand out. Another thing that stands out is the impact of this on Nathan Lyon, because he was also involved in the last 2 of these very close points from Australian perspective. And when the winning run was scored, from a specific camera angle, you can actually see that the ball passes Nathan Lyon, and he knows it's gone to the boundary for the winning run, and he simply crumples to the ground. It shows the impact that it has on the players that are involved in such a tight contest. Later, Tim Payne goes to him and lifts him up and tells him he's the senior player and he can't, lose hope like that. So all of these are very poignant moments that as a sports fan you would always look forward to. So I think both the Australian coach Langer and the captain have come out and said that their use of DRS could have been better, and that could have probably cost them the match. But Australia would be very, very disappointed knowing that victory was so close and they had 78 runs or 76 runs that was still required, and Stokes just stood up and made sure they wouldn't cross the line. So all in all, we got to witness another fantastic Test innings, one for the ages, so to say. And I think we should let a bit of the dust settle on it, and we should talk about it maybe in a couple of months or years' time, and to see how good this innings compares against some of the greatest innings of all time. But, my instinct is this is going to probably jump into top 5 no matter what. I mean, this along with, some of the greatest fourth inning chase innings, for example, the 200 scored by Gavaskar in the 70s when India chased down the highest total back in the day. Also, V.S. Lakshman's third innings, 281, of course. Kusal Pereira's earlier in the year, the 153 not out. Also, Brian Lara, who made a similar score of 153, if I'm not wrong, with company of Walsh. I also recollect another innings. There was a very tense test match between Pakistan and Bangladesh when Inzamam ul Haq led Pakistan to victory, and I remember the Bangladeshi players weeping when they could not win. And some of these innings can readily come to mind, but as I said, maybe a few more months and years and later we'll be able to judge this innings for what it is. But all in all, a fantastic drama that unfolded, and it had to be this guy, Ben Stokes. Apparently his year is getting better and better, because first he led England to a World Cup win by playing that very great innings of 85, not out in the World Cup final, but then this 135 probably easily surpasses that innings as well. I remember in an interview Justin Langer saying they felt the Ashes were robbed of them, and that's the right thing to say, I think, because with 80 runs or nearly 80 runs left and 1 wicket to get or 2 wickets to get, they would have thought they have, not one but both hands on the trophy. And now it's come to pass that the score's been levelled at 1-1, and now they have 2 more tests and they have to go back to the drawing board and fight But if I were to be the Australian coach, I wouldn't be too disappointed knowing that what happened. But most of the test match went according to plan as far as Australia was concerned. They bowled out England for 67. And this also means a lot of credit goes to the bowlers. And they also were able to almost bring them to the doorstep of victory, but they couldn't cross. But, if they could have slowed down the game and they could have taken some more time out of the game by just talking to each other, like there are these endless conferences at the bowlers, top of bowlers run up that these days captains indulge in. Those sort of things could have been done a bit more, stretch the drama out. But all you needed was one good ball, and therein Leach and mainly Stokes get the credit for the way they played. So now we will go on to the next test, which will be in Old Trafford beginning tomorrow. And we have some startling things that we have come to know since. Anderson has been ruled out of Ashes, so Craig Overton has been called in. And he's going to replace Vokes, which comes in as a bit of a surprise because one would have expected Vokes to retain his batting spot, given that he's also a very classically, comfortable batsman at the test level. Overton can bat for sure. Overton can bat, but he's no Vokes, let me put it like this, at least with the bat. But I think he's a more steady, let's say a like-for-like replacement when it comes to bowling with Vokes. Even though Vokes might be a bit faster, I think Overton can do a very good job there. And then, of course, we also have come to know that Joe Denley and Jason Roy will swap their batting positions. So Denley will go ahead and open, and Jason Roy will be batting at 4. We all suspected this might come to pass at some point in time in the summer, simply because Jason Roy's technique was not going to stand up to a test match new ball examination, and that's what it's come to be. And Denley will go on and open. He'll be in a more, let's say, comfortable environs when he comes in at number 1, or will take the new ball on. And Roy, who's more or less always played in the middle order for Surrey when he's been playing red ball cricket, will get to reprise that. So it's going to be a good thing as far as England are concerned. And what this win in Headingley would have given them, well, a lot of things, I'm sure, at least the confidence and the relief that the series is still alive, and maybe a chance at taking the Ashes cleanly. And for Australia, we see that they have decided Usman Khwaja will be dropped from the 11. He was batting at number 3, but with Smith getting fit and coming back in, they felt there were a surplus of left-handers in the top order, especially the chairman of selectors, Trevor Horns, seems to have indicated this, and maybe they want a more stable number 3, and maybe Marnus Labuschagne will take the number 3 spot. It was a curious case of whether Usman Khwaja, who has a superior record to somebody like Marcus Harris, should lose his place in the 11, especially given that Usman Khwaja can also open the batting. But in this case, Marcus Harris was just being given one test, was probably persevered so that he gets more of a chance to show what he can do. But Usman Khwaja has enough of experience that he'll come back to the squad. Also, when it comes to bowling, James Pattinson has been rested, and both Siddle and Stark are included in the 12. So it's going to be very interesting whom they are going to go for when it comes to fast bowling, whether it will be Hazelwood and Cummins along with either Stark or Siddle. The early indications look like it might be Siddle who would be the holding bowler, while you have the likes of Hazelwood and Cummins who can go ahead and attack. So it's all to play for in the test match in Old Trafford. And Headingley once again has come to focus, If you're a test match fan, you can always remember Gautham Ashes 1981 test match of Headingley, or Mark Butcher's 173 not out chasing a huge total against Australia, also in I think 1999. All of these happened at Headingley. So Headingley is a ground for momentous test innings, it looks like. Also Shai Hope played a very good innings for West Indies in the last year's Headingley test. So a bunch of really good innings that one can recall when going back and looking at Headingley. I think in our upcoming episodes we'll be taking a look at the 4th and the 5th Ashes test, and I'm very curious how that's going to unfold. Now, if you were to go on and look at the end of the first test between India and West Indies, it was a bit of a one-sided affair, it must be said. Compared to what was unfolding on the same day in the Ashes test, the first test between West Indies and India was a very one-sided affair, because India had set a very tall target for West Indies, and 419 runs to be scored. It was not going to be easy. So even though the first innings were really close, India made 297, and thanks to a very good 39 by Jason Holder, West Indies were able to crawl their way up to 222. That meant India did not have a really match-winning lead. So a lot of credit goes to the Indian top and middle order, because KL Rahul made 38, though it was a very patient 38, Pujara 25, and then Kohli made 51, and then Rahane and Vihari finished it off. So Rahane made 100, 102 to add to his first innings 81. And then Vihari made a very enterprising 93 of just 128 balls, scoring at a strike rate of more than 72 to ensure that there was enough time and the total was going to be very effective. So 419 was going to be, let's say, 1 run more than the highest total being chased by a West Indian team to win the test. But then the bowling was exceptional, especially from Bumrah, who blew away the West Indian top order and they were reduced to 15 for 5. And there was no coming back from there. I think some of the balls he bowled were fantastic. The ball he bowled to Darren Bravo stays in my mind because how beautiful it was. It was a beautiful outswinger if you're a right-hander, but if you're a left-hander, it comes into you. And the ball swung away from Bravo, pitched, and went through the gate to take his stumps. So that was a fantastic ball. Also, similarly, the ball with which he bowled Holder, it was a very, very fast leg break. That's the only way I can classify it, because it was bowled at close to 140 kph and it literally spun away from Holder, and it was also another outswinger, and it was pitching on middle-end leg and hitting off. So one of those balls, not a lot a batsman can do. So at one point in time, West Indies were really in trouble. They were 50 for 9 and they could have been easily bowled out for 55. But Kemar Roach swung merrily in the company of Miguel Cummings, and they took West Indies to 3 figures, 100. Ajinkya Rahane was voted the man of the match in spite of the 5-4. So Bumrah finished with 5 for 7 from 8 overs. So fantastic and startlingly good figures in a 4th innings. But Ajinkya Rahane's contribution in setting up the test match was recognized and he was given the man of the match. When it comes to the second test, this one was played in Kingston. And this was going to be, well, we always hoped West Indies would come back. They would come back fighting. But that did not happen again because they gave a debut to the much talked about off spinner, Rakeem Cornwall. A very substantial person, no doubt, but also a substantial talent as we got to see. India batting first made 416 runs in 140 overs. So Mayank Agarwal made 55 and then Kohli 76. Again, a very patient knock by Kohli, it has to be said. Rahane made 24, but Hanuma Vihari, who came in at the fall of Rahane's wicket, and there was a bit of chances that India could blow away a solid opening phase. But he made sure he batted with the rest of the lower middle order to convert this to a big total. So he made 111. This is his first 100. And you see the blossoming of this talent. We definitely saw that he was feeling more and more comfortable at the test match level, be it 93 in the previous innings or this innings. It shows that Vihari has the technique and the temperament for the highest level. And his 111 definitely in company of Pant, who made 27, Jadeja 16, and then Ishant Sharma made a 57. So it looks like Ishant Sharma has taken the most number of innings to get to a 50 among all international batsmen. So congrats to him, and it's a long overdue reward for his persistence and doggedness in the way he bats in test matches. In fact, in the final phases of the partnership between Vihari and Sharma, I think Ishant Sharma was the aggressor and Vihari was slowing down because he was approaching 100. And Ishant Sharma, very much like, the way he shepherded Virat Kohli to his maiden test 100, he also shepherded Vihari to his 100. And some also credit should be given to Ishant Sharma. Maybe he imparts this calmness to the non-striker whenever he's batting, and this comfort knowing that this guy will not be easily, disturbed. Holder took a beautiful 5-4. So Holder bowled really beautifully, and he was not only the attacking bowler but also the containing bowler. It was a dual role that he played. Strangely, Gabriel looked off colour this whole test match. Maybe there was some injury niggle bothering him. Kemar Roach at times looked very penetrative, but it was not going to be good enough. Rakeem Cornwall took 3 wickets for 105 in 41 very tight and controlling overs. And he shows also that he has the off-spinning skill to belong at the highest level, and the rest of it remains to be seen. So having made 416, India were able to dismiss West Indies for 117 in the first innings. Again, a lot of credit to Bumrah here, who took a 6-4, including a hat-trick. So I was very lucky to actually be able to see the 3 balls that comprised of his hat-trick. So the dismissals of Bravo, Brooks and Chase. They were all wonderful, wonderful balls. So one of them was caught, but the other 2 were LBWs. So also I think Bumrah rightly credited Kohli for getting him a hat-trick, because the third dismissal, that is Chase dismissal, was actually not given out on the field. But then Kohli reviewed the decision and it was overturned on review. So well done to Kohli as well to get Bumrah a hat-trick. Only Shimran Hetmeyer made 34 and nobody else really showed any fight in the first innings, and West Indies were 117 all out. In the bowling, Shami took 2 for, and Jadeja and Sharma each took 1 wicket. So strangely, India decided to actually bat on rather than put West Indies in for a follow-on. It looks like the culture of asking the team that is more than 200 runs behind to follow on is more or less dying out, because these days most teams are not comfortable swapping the innings order. That is, they may have to come and bat out on the fourth innings. Maybe even a chase of 100 could be tricky, so probably they don't take these risks. So India chose the same route, but they were rocked by some wonderful bowling by Kima Roach, who took 3 for 28, basically reducing India to 3 for 36, as Kohli was dismissed for a first bowler, and then Agarwal made 4 and Rahul made just 6. Pujara and Rahane steadied the ship, but then Pujara also was dismissed for 27. So a rare, a very becalmed series for Pujara. He's normally very good, and at least he comes good in one innings, and usually in the third innings of a test he's very good. But in this case he was not able to do that. But Rahane stuck around, and along with him Vihari came out and played enterprisingly, so that they gave enough time so that India could declare already on the third day. So having gotten to 168 for 4, India declared, having played out about 55 overs. Roach had 3 wickets, and then Holder took the other wicket to fall. So this set West Indies a target of 468 to win. Again, it was more or less a nominal target because there were more than 2 days left, and it looked like India were going to force a victory on the 4th day, and that's exactly what happened. West Indies finished the 3rd day on 45 for 2. And again, the 2 wickets to fall were Campbell, the opener for 16, who was dismissed by Shami. And then Ishant Sharma took the wicket of Craig Brathwaite. This is another unfortunate low series for Craig Brathwaite, who is the vice captain of the test squad and also one of their mainstays as far as the top order batting goes. And unfortunately, he couldn't come good. Darren Bravo, who batted to score 23 runs, was retired hurt as he was stuck on the head by Jasprit Bumrah bouncer. That meant the first concussion substitute of the series, in the form of Jermaine Blackwood, was brought into the West Indian squad, and he was allowed to bat as Bravo was withdrawn. Shamar Brooks played a very patient knock to score 50 runs, and Jermaine Blackwood made an enterprising 38. Holder again made a 39, but once, let's say, the partnership between Brooks and Blackwood was broken by Bumrah, that meant the result was sealed, and Holder just held up the proceedings for a while but could not really convert it to a victory. 3 wickets to Shami and 3 wickets to Jadeja in the last innings, and Sharma took 2 and Bumrah took 1. Wonderful test as far as India was concerned, and as Kohli rightly pointed out in the post-match ceremony and also the interviews, that Hanuma Vihari was the find of the series as far as India was concerned. And as far as West Indies go, well, Rakeem Cornwall playing his first test showed enough promise as a spinner to give everybody an idea that he belongs at the top level, and maybe going on he can actually be given a longer run and he can be allowed to grow into a role as an off spinner and also maybe an all-rounder. As far as the focus points goes, West Indian top order was really, really brittle, and they always lost a wicket within the first 20 runs being scored. And well, let's also not take away anything from the fact that how good Bumrah was. Bumrah was really, really good, and he made sure West Indies never got off to a comfortable start. So there has been no man of the series declared, but let's say the uncrowned man of the series would be Jasprit Bumrah. Now, there are also the T20 series that is going on between New Zealand and Sri Lanka. So in the first T20I, New Zealand wrapped up a comfortable victory. In this case, they were chasing a score of 174 made by Sri Lanka thanks to 79 by Kusal Mendis and 33 by Niroshan Dikwala. So it was a typically belligerent innings by Mendis, who scored rapidly, almost at a strike rate of 150. Tim Southee was captaining New Zealand as Kane Williamson has been rested. So Tim Southee took 2 for 20 in his 4 overs, and then Mitchell Santon showed excellent control and took 1 for 22 in his 4 overs. But the rest of the New Zealand bowlers were tonked around. So they had some new bowlers, for example, Scott Kuggelein and Seth Rance. All of these guys were tonked around. Also, they had some other new guys in the team. For example, Daryl Mitchell was there. And it looks like Colin de Grandhomme has been entrusted to bat at 4 of 5 in this T20 lineup. Colin Munro had come back into the 11 as well. So in this chase, Colin Munro couldn't contribute and he was dismissed off the first ball thanks to a Malinga Yorker. Martin Guptill, who's back in the squad, couldn't do much and he was dismissed for 11. But Colin de Grandhomme made 44 and then Ross Taylor made 48 as they took, let's say, the majority of the chase out. But then Daryl Mitchell with 25 not out and Mitchell Santner with 14 not out saw through to the end of the chase in the last over to take the win. There was not a lot to write home about in Sri Lankan bowling. Only Malinga, who bowled excellently, took 2 for 23 of his 4 overs. And then Vanidu Hasaranga, the leg spinner, took 2 for 21 of his 4 overs. The second T20I was played at Palakelle. And in this T20I as well, Sri Lanka batted first. So they were able to make a total of 161 for 9 thanks to some solid top order contributions, 37 from Avishka Fernando and 39 from Dikwela, included among them. A lot of credit should go to the New Zealand bowlers who were able to stymie the Sri Lankan run rate in the second and the third quarter of their innings, because at one point in time around the halfway mark, it looked like Sri Lanka were looking comfortable to score more than 180, but New Zealand were able to pull them back. Thanks once again to Saudi, who took 2 for 18, and then Seth Rance took 3 for 33. When it came their turn to bat, New Zealand also could not have a great start, as they decided to rest Martin Guptill, and Munro opened with Seifert, and they both made teens, not a lot, but then Colin de Grandhomme came good once again, scoring 15 in just 46 balls, and then he was kept company by Tom Bruce, who scored 53 or 46 balls. There was no Ross Taylor again in this game, and Daryl Mitchell could not get going, but Mitchell Santner scored a couple of crucial boundary shots in the last over, and New Zealand were able to win with 2 balls to spare. When it came to bowling, Akila Danjaya took 3 for 36, and Isuru Udana took 1 for 18 of 3 overs. Sandakan, who was back in the squad, took 4 overs, none for 16, and that was a wonderful bowling effort as well. The player of the match was Tim Southee for his very economical bowling, and New Zealand have taken a 2-0 lead in this series. Now, if you were to take a quick look at all the news from outside the cricketing field or outside of the international cricketing field, have we witnessed the greatest T20 all-round performance ever? Is a good question to ask, because in the recently concluded Karnataka Premier League, K. Gautham, who's also a Karnataka off-spin bowler, but he's more or less on the fringes of Indian team selection, one can say, because he's a part of the India A team often. This guy, first of all, batting at number 3, scored 134 runs of just 56 balls to take his team to 203 for 3. He was representing the Bellary Tuskers. And then when it came his turn to bowl, he opened the bowling and took 8 for 15 of his 4 overs. So his opponents stood no chance. The opponents were Shimoga Lions, and they were able to come to 133 all out, but what a wonderful bowling performance and what a wonderful batting performance. Either of these could have been a clear man of the match performance, but he was able to combine both. So this could very well stand out as the greatest T20 all-round performance ever. So I don't know if there are any other better performances by a single player in a T20 game. If there are, I would very much like to learn about it. Do write into us and let us know. There is also some other interesting news that's coming through. Misbah ul Haq, who was, we were discussing in the previous episode, could be a good candidate to be the next head coach of Pakistan, has officially applied for that position, and he has resigned his other position as a part of the cricket committee, right? And then Hong Kong's Nadeem and Irfan have been banned for life for their involvement with bookies and also in corruption. So Irfan Ahmed and Nadeem Ahmed are brothers, and they have been sort of suspended from play already for more than a year by Hong Kong Cricket Board, and they were actually found guilty of trying to corrupt several matches, including those played in the 2016 World T20. So it looks like this has been an ongoing investigation, and finally the Hong Kong Cricket Board have come to the conclusion, and then ICC has been asked, and then after all the consultation they have been banned for life by Hong Kong Cricket Board. In another news, Ireland will now host a T20 series between Scotland, Netherlands and Ireland. It's a T20I series. This is just to make up the void left by the now postponed Euro T20 League. So it will only be 6 matches. There is a 2-game warm-up that every of these 3 teams will get, because there is a T20 World Cup qualifiers in UAE coming up in October, and this will form as a warm-up for all the 3 teams. So it's a good news. It does not probably make up for the cancellation of the postponement of the Euro T20 Slam, but at least this is a bit of a relief for those of us who are at least looking forward to see nations like Ireland and Netherlands play. Going further, we have come to know that Ambati Rayudu has now done a U-turn on his retirement. So basically, earlier in the year, miffed at being left out of the squad for the World Cup, and in spite of being multiple replacement being sent over, he was not considered properly. He was very miffed, and he announced retirement from all forms of cricket. But then he first said he'll play T20s and then IPL, and then now it looks like he's doing a complete U-turn and may also be available for first class and list A games. So it remains to be seen how Rayudu will handle his career from now on, but good luck to him going further with his cricket career. Now, Mithali Raj, the Indian, let's say, stalwart batswoman, has retired from T20 internationals. So considering that, she's probably not going to be playing the World Cup coming up in 2020, she has decided to retire from T20s. So She's still around playing ODIs and, if possible, tests for India. So we wish her all the best for the rest of her cricket career. Also, it looks like there has been an arrest warrant being issued in the name of Mohd Shami, the Indian fast bowler, in a domestic violence case. So this case has been ongoing already for a year, and if we can recollect it, last year his Indian contract had been temporarily suspended and he could not take part in IPL of 2018 because of all this going on. But now there are court cases moving ahead and an arrest warrant has been issued. This warrant will be held in abeyance for 15 days until Mohd Shami can come back to India, because he is representing India in Caribbean, as we already discussed earlier. But he has to come back and surrender himself to the West Bengal police, where this case has been filed. So we'll be keeping a close eye on this news and let's see how that goes. Now, let's take a quick look at the trivia section. The trivia question from the previous episode was that which batsman has the highest test aggregate at Headingley and in how many innings? There should be not a lot of surprises as to who could be the person holding the record, because if one may recollect the records, we know that Don Bradman once scored more than 300 runs in a single day, and this was in Headingley, and this has never been beaten. So knowing all this, we can say comfortably that Don Bradman is the person who holds the record by scoring 963 runs in just 6 innings in the 4 test matches he played at Headingley. Yogesh, our keen listener, has sent in the right answer. Thanks to Yogesh. But also he has sent in some interesting tidbits. So it looks like Jeffrey Boycott has the next highest with 897 runs in 16 innings. The best average is, well, it belongs to the Don. The average is 192.6, right? And then when we look at the total number of runs scored by a batsman at a test venue, so if you were to cut off this list to be top at 5 number of tests played and the number of runs scored by a batsman at the same venue, we have a very startling top 5. So Don Bradman has played just 4 tests in Headingley and scored 963 runs. Everton Weekes has played 5 in Queen's Park Oval in the West Indies and scored 912. Garfield Sobers has scored 823 runs at Sabina Park. Wally Hammond has scored 808 at SCG, and then David Warner has scored 803 at Waka, or the Perth cricket ground. So it looks very interesting. Thanks for Yogesh, who sent us these interesting stats, and I hope he continues to remain involved and answer our questions as well. And the trivia question for this week is, who is the only bowler of Asian origin to have taken 5-4 in Australia, England, South Africa and West Indies? If you have been following the news very closely, you probably know the answer already. So do write into us. We are very keenly looking forward to your answers. And also, if you have any thoughts about the earlier topic that we discussed, we would like to hear from you about it. You could write into us, for example, at Twitter, at Armchair Cricket Pod, or using our Facebook page. You could write into us at armchair.cricket@gmail.com, right? All of these are good avenues to contact us. Also, we are always keen to listen to your thoughts, whatever you may say about our podcast. If you are ever going to talk cricket with your friends, maybe you may want to talk about our podcast, we get a shout out, and we get a lot of encouragement if more and more people listen to us. So with more tests coming up, at least the 2 tests of Ashes, and also India and South Africa test series coming up, a lot of things to look forward to. So I hope you guys are all tuned in, guys and girls, and we wish to have your company again and again. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.